No more his. Back to the show. Given there is a lot of news about financials, some of it seen, some of it not, and the issues or warnings surrounding it, this is a roundup of things related to money or lack of it, including sneak plans they have. Now, this is not a US-based issue only. This is a global issue and supports what I've said and warned about for the past 3 or 4 years. It proves the old financial system is crashed, as I've stated in the past. It proves their desperation to get other funding in place for them to keep the illusion of being in control going. And that's all it is, an illusion. Why crypto is a desperation act and who is involved in it. And for those new, crypto is a worst case disaster scenario, and we the people have to avoid that at all costs. But like with the jabs, they will use all sorts of seducements and coercion to give them back control of the life force energy known as money. A recent chat with 2 members discussed how we have lost value in life and many other walks of life, all of it corrupted by money. I explained the disparity in wages between a nurse who is caring for people and a lawyer who squeezes people out of their money like a boa constrictor, which is why we call them snake oil people. But an hour of my time is the same as an hour of the president's time, or an hour of a medical expert or oil baron. And this is what we have lost in the old world with the money program. This is why we need not greed, and the need to share more, not hoard like the old society taught us, based on the fear of scarcity. And if everyone shared, there would be no scarcity of what we need. Right, the financials. And first we are going to highlight a bill that was put forward last year and implicates some and shows the underhandedness of how these people operate. This is Bill S3571, which if you rearrange those same numbers to 7135 on a calculator and turn it upside down, it may be revealing. But Bill S3571 is to require member banks to maintain pass-through digital dollar wallets for certain persons and for other purposes. In the Senate of the United States, March 23rd, 2020. And Mr. Brown introduced the following bill, which was read twice and referred to the Committee on Banking, Housing and Urban Affairs. But it said, in the Senate of the United States, all in capital letters, which tells you it is a dead entity. And for those who are new to the show and information should know, the United States has got nothing to do with America. Zero. The United States was formed in Austria first back in 1815. It was the United States of Europe and a tight connection between the then European banking cartel, which then hijacked America in 1871. The creation of the Federal Reserve Bank, which is neither federal, government-backed, or even an American-based entity like its subsidiary, the IRS, which is a Puerto Rican trust backed by the Crown in the UK. The Crown are those same European banking families and has got nothing to do with the Queen of England. The Crown is located in the Square Mile in London, but is not affiliated or connected in any way, shape or form with the UK. Like Washington, D.C. and the Vatican, they are independent principalities that have docked on land in America, UK and Italy, but essentially they are the pirates of the sea, if you understand maritime law. So the bill is to require member banks to maintain pass-through digital dollar wallets for certain persons and for other purposes. And it said be enacted by the Senate and House of Representatives of the United States of America in Congress assembled. Section 1. This act may be cited as the Banking for All Act. And yet, curiously, the bill says it was for certain persons and other purposes, not for the all. Section 2. Definitions in this Act. 1. Digital dollars. And the term digital dollars means dollar balances consisting of digital ledger entries recorded as liabilities in the accounts of any Federal Reserve Bank. Recorded as liabilities, which means it is debt. 2. Digital dollar wallets. The term digital dollar wallet means a digital wallet or account maintained by a Federal Reserve Bank on behalf of any person for the purpose of holding digital dollar balances. So it must be connected to the Federal Reserve. 3. Member bank. The term member bank means any national bank, state bank or trust company which has become a member of one of the reserve banks created by the Federal Reserve Act 12 U.S.C. 221, and it says any specific trust company. One has to ask. 4. Pass-through digital dollar wallets. The term pass-through digital dollar wallet means a digital wallet or account maintained by a member bank on behalf of any person, entitling that person to a pro rata share of a pooled reserve balance that the member bank maintains at any Federal Reserve Bank. 5. Postal retail facility. The term postal retail facility means A. Post office branch, post office classified station, or other facilities that is operated by the Postal Service with the primary function of which is to provide retail postal services, and B. Does not include a contractor-operated facility offering postal services. 6. Postal Service. The term Postal Service means the United States Postal Service. Section 3. Authority and mandate for member banks to maintain pass-through digital dollar wallets. Subsection A. Obligations of member banks. 1. In general, member banks shall open and maintain pass-through digital wallets for all persons, including persons eligible to receive payments from the United States pursuant to a federal law relating to the coronavirus disease 2019, who elect to deposit funds into pass-through digital wallets. So let's summarize that, shall we? Digital dollars, digital wallets, the US Postal Service, and the mention of a trust company. Now, which person mentioned all of them in her narrative in the past 18 months? Of which I disagreed with, as it is not beneficial to we the people. And yet some people thought I was just taking pot shots at the trustee. Digital dollars, wallets are cryptocurrencies all ran by the now Black Sun-led Federal Reserve the same Federal Reserve she claimed to have taken down. And the great question to ask now is the trustee now a member of the Federal Reserve? Is the trust a member of the Federal Reserve? And is the trustee advocating for cryptocurrency? Like I said all along, the disagreement on a personal level has got nothing to do with her decisions as a trustee. I call those trust decisions out based on the evidence provided, or in her case, a lack of evidence to refute the claims, given she has failed to answer a single question in the right manner in 18 months, as stated by other show hosts she has been interviewed on. But if she's not involved in this, the question is, why hasn't she stopped it? It should also be noted that this very bill went in the very same week the trustee sent money to Trump, who is Black Sun, and Trump sent it to BlackRock, who are also Black Sun, to fund their takeover of the former Rothschilds-operated bank. And in essence, whether knowingly or not, the trustee funded a hostile takeover of the Federal Reserve by the Black Sun. New boss, same as the old boss. And yet we get crickets or abuse when anyone dares to ask a question. Section 2. Maintenance of assets. A. In general, each member bank shall establish and maintain a separate legal entity for the exclusive purpose of holding all assets and maintaining all liabilities associated with pass-through digital wallets. B. Contents. The assets of any entity described in subparagraph A shall consist exclusively of a balance maintained in a master account at a Federal Reserve Bank, and the liabilities or obligations of the entity shall consist exclusively of an equal quantity of balances maintained by holders of pass-through digital wallets. C. Capital or liquidity regulation. The assets and liabilities of any legal entity described in subparagraph A shall not be deemed assets or liabilities of the member bank or its affiliates for purposes of any capital or liquidity regulation promulgated by federal or state banking authorities. So what does that mean? That means they are cutting out the banks. I did warn a bit in the Clowns in Panic show. They are taking the banks down, not us. The banks had to go down anyway. There's nothing left. And it is saying the transfer of digital dollars cannot be classed as an asset of the bank it passes through, which means the days of central banks are now doomed also, as fake central banks like Wells Fargo, Citibank and Chase became fake central banks for various countries. Citibank was Africa, Wells Fargo, South America, Chase, all the credit unions, and declared the deposits that were filtering through its bank to its final destination as cash on hand, except it wasn't theirs. So the money supply was being counted twice. Person A sends to person B. It goes into Wells Fargo, who then class that as cash on hand and an asset, and then they transfer it to the destination, which also classes as cash on hand and an asset. Double banking, double dipping. But what it also means is the bank can't leverage against it because they can't class it as an asset anymore. And so then their only means of leverage is through loans from the Federal Reserve. And this is worse than the last banking BS. And the trustee has some significant answering to do as A, her role in it, B, why hasn't she stopped it, given she is the head of every single bank on the planet, including the Federal Reserve. Is it telling she went on crypto-based shows like Dan Lutz, Charlie Ward and Chris Rice that I know of? There may be more. D. Online application requirement for large banks. Member banks with total consolidated assets greater than 10 billion shall promptly offer application through online or telephonic means for pass-through digital wallets. B. Terms of pass-through digital dollar wallets. They shall not be subject to any account fees, minimum balances or maximum balances, and shall pay interest at a rate not below the greater of the rate of interest on required reserves and the rate of interest on excess reserves. 2. Shall provide functionality and service levels no less favourable than those that the member bank offers for its existing transaction accounts, including with respect to debit cards, automated teller machines, online account access, automatic bill pay, mobile banking, customer service, and such other services as the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve System determines appropriate in the public interest, provided that digital dollar wallets shall not include overdraft coverage. That's going to hamper many people in and of itself. 3. Shall be prominently branded in all account statements, marketing materials and other communications as pass-through Fed accounts maintained by the member bank on behalf of the Federal Reserve. 4. May not be closed or restricted by the bank on the basis of profitability considerations. And 5. Shall provide account holders with reasonable protection against losses caused by fraud or security breaches. C. Reimbursement of costs or for costs. Each postal retail facility and each member bank with total consolidated assets of not greater than 10 billion shall be reimbursed each calendar quarter by the relevant Federal Reserve Bank for the actual and reasonable operating costs incurred by the postal retail facility or member bank in offering pass-through digital wallets. Now, the gist of that is the Blackson-owned bank will run all financials, and member banks run the whole enterprise, but will have to wait 3 months to be paid for doing so by the Federal Reserve. Nice scam, that. And what this will do is it will create cash flow issues, and I suspect this will lead to the second round of deleting banks. The first is the launch of this, as some banks won't have enough collateral. 2. Regulations. The Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve System shall promulgate such regulations as necessary to carry out this subsection. Authority of the Board. Member banks shall be subject to such regulations and obligations as may be imposed by the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve System in connection with maintaining pass-through digital dollar wallets. Section 4. Authority for state non-member banks and credit unions to offer pass-through digital dollar wallets. The Federal Reserve banks shall permit state non-member banks and credit unions to open master accounts for the exclusive purpose of offering the pass-through digital dollar wallets in compliance with the separate entity structure described in Section 3A. If 1. The pass-through digital wallets comply with the terms set forth in Section 3B, and 2. Each state non-member bank or credit union electing to offer pass-through digital wallets shall be entitled to cost reimbursement in accordance with Section 3C. The Federal Reserve banks shall permit. How benevolent of them to allow that. They should add the caveat of if the state non-member banks and credit unions are still surviving by then. Section 5. Authority and mandate, there's that word again, for Federal Reserve banks to maintain digital dollar wallets for the general public. Authorization subject to such restrictions, limitations and regulations as may be imposed by the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve System. Each Federal Reserve bank may maintain digital dollar wallets. But you notice there's no mention of the government here. None. B. Mandate. In general, all Federal Reserve banks shall not later than January 1st, 2021, so it's underway, it seems, or perhaps not, make digital wallets available to all residents and citizens of the United States and to businesses domiciled in the United States. 2. Limited branches. In areas where access to physical member bank branches is limited, which will be widespread in future as many banks will shut down, including low or moderate income geographies, designated disaster areas. What an interesting line that is. The disaster area is New York and the Federal Reserve and the UN. And distressed or underserved non-metropolitan middle-income geographies. What about the low income? As designated by the Federal Financial Institutions Examination Council. Federal Reserve banks shall partner with postal retail facilities to ensure access and availability to application and account services for all residents and citizens of the United States and to businesses domiciled in the United States. Section C. Terms of digital wallets. 1. Shall not be subject to any account fees, minimum balances or maximum balances, and shall pay interest at a rate not below the greater of the rate of interest on required reserves and the rate of interest on excess reserves. Shall provide debit cards, online account access, automatic bill pay, mobile banking, customer service and other such services as the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve System determines appropriate in the public interest, provided that digital dollar wallets shall not include overdraft coverage. 3. Shall provide in conjunction with the Postal Service access to automatic teller machines to be maintained on behalf of the Board of Governors of the Postal Service at postal retail facilities. 4. Shall be branded in all account statements, branded like cattle, marketing materials and other communications as Fed accounts, maintained by the Federal Reserve Bank on behalf of the United States of America. Anyone ask, did they ask anybody else whether we approved of this? Just saying. 5. May not be closed or restricted on the basis of profitability considerations. And 6. Shall provide account holders with reasonable protection against losses caused by fraud or security breaches, which are generally done by them anyway, or the Five Eyes Consortium along with Mossad. Just saying. D. Bank Secrecy Act. In establishing and maintaining digital wallets, each Federal Reserve Bank shall comply with 1. Section 21 of the Federal Deposit Insurance Act, 2. Chapter of Title 1 of Public Law 91 through 508, 3. Subchapter 2 of Chapter 53 of Title 31 United States Code, E. Privacy, Section 552A of Title 5 United States Code, commonly known as the Privacy Act of 1974, perhaps it should be renamed Piracy Act, shall apply to digital wallets, and the privacy obligations applicable to each Federal Reserve Bank and its employees, including with respect to criminal and civil penalties, shall mirror those applicable to federal tax returns under sections 6103, 7213A1, 7213A and 7431 of the Internal Revenue Code of 1986. Section 6. Regulations. The Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve System shall promulgate regulations carrying out this Act. Like I said, no mention of the government. This came in this week. The Federal Reserve is pushing ahead with its study into whether to implement its own digital currency and will be releasing a paper on the issue shortly, according to the Chairman Jerome Powell on Wednesday. No decision has been made on the matter yet, he added, and said the Fed does not feel pressured to do something quickly as other nations move forward with their own projects. Yet why is there a bill delivering the same such project that was placed in March of last year? Which coincided with the trustee sending Trump $554 billion, which was used to take over the Fed. This was then sent to the Treasury and leveraged to the tune of $4.54 trillion, and then used to fund the lockdowns. Powell said, I think it's important that we get to a place where we can make an informed decision about this and do so expeditiously. I don't think we're behind, he said. I think it's more important to do this right than to do it fast. And he added that the Fed is working proactively to evaluate whether to issue a CBDC, and if so, in what form. And he said establishing a digital dollar has been on the Fed's radar for more than a year, and it announced in May it would launch a deeper examination into the issue with a paper to follow. So what is a CBDC? It is a central bank digital currency and is the virtual format of a fiat currency for a particular nation or region. It is an electronic record or digital token of the official currency and is issued and is regulated by its monetary authority. So now it is a fresh air version of a fake currency. is what they're telling you. And they say that the advantages of CBDCs are, that word again, convenience, are that they can simply simplify the implementation of monetary and fiscal policy and promote financial inclusion in an economy by bringing the unbanked into the financial system. And it means that everyone must use their Federal Reserve banks, or you can't have access to the new money, can't purchase or trade, because cash will be outlawed. That's what it means. Now, the main disadvantages of CBDCs are that they are a centralized form of currency and can erode the privacy of citizens. Well, I never. Yep, it's a one world currency, New World Order currency. And here's our reply to that.